When we got married, my husband once said, "If I ever betray you, may thunder strike me down, and may I die a miserable death." 3 years after our marriage, he fell out of love. Men, after all, are only faithful when they're hanging on the wall. Chapter 1. When I went to deliver lunch to the company, I saw Victoria sitting on Elias's lap. The two of them were locked in a passionate embrace, burning with desire. Silently, I slipped the cancer report back into my bag. Go on. Indulge yourselves, after all. He doesn't have much time left to live. Elias's glasses were askew. His face flushed red. Victoria, on the other hand, found a moment to look up at me, with a triumphant smile. She gave me the look of a victor. One was my husband, the other, my half-sister. Nothing could be more disgusting. Elias and I met in middle school, started dating in high school, got accepted into the same university, and went from school uniforms to wedding gowns. Through every storm, every struggle, I stood by him, through his startups, his failures, and finally, his success. He had accompanied me out of a terrible childhood home, and together we built a small world of our own. Everyone used to say we were a match made in heaven. When we got married, he had looked at me so earnestly and sworn again, "If I ever betray you, may thunder strike me down, and may I die a miserable death." That's why one should never speak so absolutely. Heaven is always watching. Pancreatic cancer, late stage. At most, 3 months left to live. Even with full treatment, all that would do is prolong his suffering. Fatigue, emaciation, abdominal pain, loss of appetite. The best treatment now is palliative care, to let the patient spend the final days in peace. But how could I possibly allow that adulterous pair to enjoy their peace? Men, indeed, they're only faithful when they're hanging on the wall. Chapter 2. Victoria is the person I hate the most. When I was 8, my mother died in an accident. Barely a week after her funeral, my father came home holding the hand of a girl 4 years younger than me and told me to call her sister. I clamped my mouth shut and refused to speak, which earned me a slap from my father. My neck stiffened with defiance. I clenched my teeth through the pain, refusing to shed a single tear. Beside us, that fragile-looking auntie started fake crying out of fright, while Victoria threw herself onto my father's leg, wailing pitifully. They looked like a family, and I, the outcast, the rebel who didn't belong. From the first moment I saw her, I knew I hated her. Since childhood, she loved stealing what was mine, wearing my dresses, tearing my homework, and one after another, taking away the men I dated. Then she'd put on that pitifully innocent face, playing the helpless little fool while throwing herself into a man's arms. So when Elias cheated, I can't say I didn't see it coming. I've always been insecure. My father's affair had left me distrustful of love. I once swore I'd never marry, until I met Elias. He moved me, deep down. I've always been sensitive, starved for love, and his affection for me was so blatant, so dazzlingly open. A bottle of warm milk in my backpack, a hot breakfast waiting in my desk cubby every morning, standing in the rain to buy me my favorite cheesecake, to be with me. He studied day and night for 2 years, closing a 200-point gap just to enter the same university. I doubted everything, but I chose to believe him. I didn't want to imagine that a man who once saw no one but me could ever betray me. But I forgot, true devotion has an expiration date. His, unfortunately, expired too soon. I once warned him sternly, "Don't talk to Victoria. She's a pretentious coquette, cunning and manipulative beyond measure." He looked at me with annoyance, saying I was overthinking. From that moment, I felt an uneasiness settle deep inside me. I deliberately broke his phone, and under the pretense of getting it repaired, I had someone recover the data. The transfer records went on endlessly, and the chat history was unbearable to look at. Each message stabbed straight into my lungs. "Silly girl, you're only 19. You know nothing and yet you followed me. I'm afraid you'll regret it one day. Every time I see you obediently waiting for me in bed, I feel guilty. You know I'll never divorce her. I can't give you a title. Can you really accept this kind of grievance? Brother-in-law, I don't care about any of that. As long as we can be together, it's enough. I've never dared to fight my sister for anything. I've never won. Not once, but I can't control myself. As long as you love me, even if it means going to hell, I'll accept it. Their chat history on WeChat was fiery and intimate. Their phone calls lasted more than an hour each time. A pair of lovers unwilling to part. They met secretly in hotels, watched fireworks and parades together at Disneyland, and while I was on a business trip, they went at it from the kitchen to the bedroom, so loud that my poor cat hid in the bathroom, trembling and too scared to come out. But what they didn't know was that I, worried about my cat, had installed cameras in every corner of the house. Those filthy, unsightly videos, high definition, 1080p, captured everything clearly, even the tiny black mole on Victoria's lower back. Now, I can't help but wonder, when Elias becomes thinner and weaker by the day, his skin yellowed by jaundice, his body frail as a skeleton, reeking from uncontrollable nausea and diarrhea, will that innocent little fool of his still want to stay with him? Chapter 3. Elias grew thinner by the day. The sickness could no longer be hidden. Chemotherapy ravaged his body. In just a few short weeks he was losing clumps of hair, tortured by pain so severe he could neither eat nor sleep, spending his days on the hospital bed howling in agony and begging the doctors for stronger painkillers. Even Victoria began to treat him with increasing indifference, but this fool couldn't see it. Time and again I watched him secretly send her messages and call her. He was ignored. Pathetic. Really, since he wanted to see her so badly. I casually said I was going home to check on things, pretending it was offhand, and Elias's eyes lit up. A flicker of light returned to those cloudy eyes. He shamelessly insisted on coming with me. I put him at a perfect viewing spot on the balcony and used the excuse that it was chilly to go fetch him some clothes. Down in the garden, my dear little sister was sipping red tea, on the phone with her girlfriends. You don't even know what a mess he is, old, bad skin, and he reeks. It's that smell old people have. Maybe he shit his pants. So disgusting. I'll string him along. He's going to die soon anyway. Play him for a few days. Get him to leave me some money, better yet. Sweet talk him into making a will. The Hainan Villa's mortgage isn't paid off and it's in my name. I've got to make him cough up the money before he dies. And after that? Either mess around with some young stud, or go hook a new one. I'm still young, I can't be a widow for some dead man, can I? When I went to fetch a blanket and draped it over his legs, Elias began to tremble and cry. Chapter 4. Elias suddenly wrapped his arms around my waist. He buried his head against me like a wounded child. I froze, suppressing the overwhelming disgust rising in my throat. I gently placed my hand on his head and stroked it in comfort. What's wrong? Are you in pain? His whole body stiffened for a moment, and between muffled sobs, I heard fragmented apologies. In his eyes, guilt was thick as fog, and beneath it, an unease he tried hard to hide. If I did something terribly wrong, would you abandon me? Would you stop wanting me? I shook my head. From the moment he cheated, I had already stopped wanting him. Elias hated being in the hospital, but his illness didn't care about his wishes. He could hardly eat, whatever he swallowed came right back up. He collapsed at the bathroom door, drenched in cold sweat. Once tall and proud, he had withered into skin and bones. I began to sense a strong desire for death in him. That night, I heard him get up and go to the balcony. The faint glow of his phone lit his pale face. He was still wearing thin pajamas, a cigarette between his fingers, the ember flaring red in the dark. It must be torture. His end was drawing near. Victoria was already impatient to squeeze the last bit of money from him. Greedy to the core, she pressed harder and harder, using the excuse of coming clean to threaten him. You dare? I heard Elias's voice, low and furious. Victoria, if you say one more word, I'll make those uncensored photos of you go viral on every social media platform in the country. Let everyone see what a shameless slut you are. I'm dying anyway, he said hoarsely. I'm not afraid of anything anymore. A long while passed, and he still hadn't come back. I got up to find him. On the 18th floor, the wind roared through the open window. Below, neon lights burned endlessly through the night. People looked like tiny ants, scurrying through life, waiting for death. Elias stood there, gripping the window frame tightly. His back was hunched, as though weighed down by unbearable pain. What are you doing? My scream snapped him out of his thoughts. Elias flinched, turned toward me, and forced a nervous smile. "It's stuffy in here," he said carefully. "I just wanted some air." He hid his phone behind him, trembling, his face ashen like a man awaiting his death sentence. That secret he kept buried was crushing him, leaving him restless, sleepless, and terrified. The kinder I was to him, the more it tormented him with guilt. I was his last flicker of hope in this world, and the tightening noose waiting at the end of it. Under the double torment of illness and remorse, he was already destroyed, skin stretched over bones, barely clinging to life. I didn't say a word. I rushed to close the window. The ceaseless wind stopped abruptly. The air turned heavy and suffocating. Elias stared blankly into space and murmured, "If only I could die right now." How could he? Why should he get to die so easily? He should live in pain and die in despair. I draped a coat over his shoulders. His hands were ice cold, hard as iron. He flinched as if scalded, trembling all over. His eyes flickered with words unsaid. Finally, he just hugged me tightly and said, "I'm sorry for everything I've done to you in this life." A storm of emotions churned inside me. I knew the rest of what he wanted to say but couldn't. But what good is sorry? Can one apology erase the pain? Can it make me forget the betrayal, the love we shared, the joy and sorrow of a decade spent together? Can it rip out the years we built with laughter and tears and leave me clean again? No, once stained, it stays stained. I suddenly wanted to grip his shoulders and ask, why? Why could we share hardship but not happiness? Why betray me, break your vow, and sleep with Victoria over and over again? Why fool me, make me spin in circles with your lies, while claiming you loved me and couldn't live without me? In my heart, I already knew the answer. He wasn't truly remorseful, if not for the sudden diagnosis of cancer. If he hadn't seen Victoria's true colors with his own eyes, he would have kept treating me like a fool, using me when I was useful, discarding me when I wasn't. The type of man who wants the best of both worlds, a young, fresh body to feed his lust, yet unwilling to give up the old wife who's lost her flavor but still has her uses. Rage burned inside me. My stomach churned, and my throat felt scorched, as if fire were licking it raw. I wanted to scream, to lose control, to slap him across the face and shout that I hated him, to accuse him of his betrayal. But when I looked at his pale, gaunt face, the words died in my throat. It wasn't worth it. I no longer wanted to recall the feeling I had the first time I saw those surveillance videos. That period was a living nightmare. I checked his phone obsessively, watched the cameras nonstop, followed him in secret, compared his schedule line by line, second by second. I became paranoid, suspicious, consumed by the fire of resentment that boiled beneath a calm surface, an active volcano barely holding itself together. I was on the verge of collapse. Sleepless nights blurred into each other, filled with endless imagination and delusion. Sometimes I couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't, if it hadn't been for that medical report. I truly don't know what irrational thing I might have done. Now, looking back, what obstacle can't be crossed? 10 years, so what? Childhood friends drift apart. People we once loved vanish into the crowd. There's always regret and unwillingness. Yes, but life is long. And I will have many, many more decades ahead. After a long hesitation, I spoke softly. I know it hurts, but for me, please, hold on a little longer, all right? I gripped his hand tightly, my eyes brimming with tears, voice tender with affection. I can't even imagine, if one day you left me, what my life would become. When that time comes, I'll have beauty and wealth both. Overnight, I'll become a rich, single woman, free from the foolish anxieties of love. The wise don't drown in love. They simply follow instinct. Let hormones lead the way. No heartbreak. Only pleasure. Hand fetish. Leg fetish. Collarbone fetish. Abstinent engineers. Youthful athletes. Enduring holidays. Perhaps an exotic stranger with deep eyes in a foreign country. And when I'm bored, I'll collect my rent. Travel across mountains and seas. See the world's splendor at my leisure. I quickly lowered my head, burying my face in my arms. Just thinking about it was enough to make me laugh out loud. Chapter 5. I chose for Elias the best specialists. The most comfortable private hospital room. And the most painful, most hopeless way to die. For him now, struggling to stay alive might be far more agonizing than death itself. He could no longer eat. Every day he survived only on 4 nutrition. His hands were covered in bruises and puncture marks. Unable to stop vomiting, he had a feeding tube inserted. His abdomen swelled with fluid, and they performed paracentesis to drain it. But we both knew, all medical treatment was meaningless. It could only buy him a little more time, at the cost of immense pain, to reach an ending already carved in fate. Was it worth it? I didn't care, because all I wanted was for him to live. I knew it was emotional blackmail, and I was fully aware of it. What could be more torturous than suffering through relentless illness, powerless to fight it, forced to lie on a hospital bed, watching your own body decay, day after day, step by step, toward death? The ward was in a good location. Through the window, one could see the garden behind. In late autumn, the plane tree leaves turned golden green, fluttering down piece by piece in the wind. Winter was coming. During those last weeks of the year, he suddenly seemed a little better. Behind the glass wall, he forced a pale smile at me. He leaned against the glass, exhaled fog onto it, and drew a silly smiling face. Trying to sound cheerful, he said, "I dreamed of our high school days again, wife. I'm not afraid to die. I'm just afraid that you'll forget me." His last wish before dying was for me to take him outside for a walk. We went to our old school. The gate had been rebuilt, and through the fence we could see students playing basketball. Final exams were approaching. In front of the Xingji building, statues of Confucius and Laozi were surrounded by apples and peanuts left by students for good luck. I saw the nostalgia in his eyes. I asked the security guard, but this year outsiders weren't allowed to enter, so we could only look from afar. Suddenly, Elias pointed excitedly to a milk tea shop across the street. After all these years, it was still there. 1 yuan ice cream cones, 2 yuan lemonade. Every evening after school, the doorway was packed with students. I pushed the door open, the wind chime tinkling softly. The young owner looked up and said, "Welcome." The signboard was the same, but the inside had changed completely. Elias's gaze stopped on a wall covered with colorful sticky notes, short, cute messages in different handwritings, some with doodled hearts and emojis, clearly written by students. I asked, "What are you looking at?" "Our sticky note," he said hoarsely. "It's gone." His voice trembled with sickness, and his eyes filled with sorrow. I said lightly, "So many years have passed. Of course it's gone." I laughed at his naivety. Time is a terrifying thing. Nothing in this world escapes it. But he refused to believe that. We went next to Jinghua South Street, where the old glass factory housing used to be. We once rented a tiny basement there, damp, dark, without even a bathroom. We had to use the public restroom outside, because I was afraid of the dark. He hung strings of little star-shaped lights on the plane tree by the door. He held my hand, and together we walked that dark, narrow path home under the glow of starlight. Now the area had been redeveloped into public green space and a fitness walkway. The elderly couples who used to play mahjong downstairs were gone. So was the old lady who sold gardenias and pear candy at the alley's end. He looked stunned, silent for a long time. Jogging students with earbuds ran past us. In that instant, he seemed to age all at once. His spirit drained away. After we returned to the hospital, his condition plummeted. On his deathbed, he reached out with a cold, bony hand, gasping, "Don't forget me. I won't. I can't. Every cent I spend from now on will be in memory of him." "Do you still love me?" he asked weakly. I hesitated. I could have lied. I probably should have lied. But I looked straight into his clouded eyes. "I don't love you. From the day you first cheated, you lost the right to say that word." Elias's eyes widened suddenly, terror and disbelief flooding them as he gasped for air. Struggling to breathe, slowly and firmly, I pulled my hand away. I looked straight at his face, so old, so far removed from the boy he once was. "Your love? Do you think it's something precious? It's worthless, trash. You didn't know, did you?" For the cat, I installed cameras all around the house. I saved every frame of you two tangled together, watched them over and over, torturing myself. I kept wondering how to make you pay. During that time, I was numb, broken, filled with chaos. But in the end, karma got to you first. I took out a tissue and wiped my right hand where he had touched it. I hadn't worn my wedding ring in a long time. That silver diamond ring never suited me. After all, a diamond is just a piece of carbon. A thick gold bracelet, that's real value. Wealth, stability. Elias's eyes bulged with shock and despair. His soul was trapped inside that withered body, unable to resist, unable to escape. You once said that if you ever betrayed me, may thunder strike you down. May you die a miserable death. This is your retribution. Lightning flashed outside the window. Elias began to convulse violently, his limbs twisting, reaching desperately toward me. His eyes were bloodshot, his trembling lips quivering, unable to form a single coherent word. When he opened his mouth, only a garbled sound came out, mixed with saliva. The flickering light cast his distorted figure like a demon crawling out of hell. But I wasn't afraid. I stood there, watching him from afar, calm, emotionless. I'll live well, I said softly. I'll live beautifully. But it doesn't matter, you won't see it anyway. Thunder cracked open the sky. Lightning lit up the room for an instant, freezing the scene on his half-open eyes. I gently closed them for him. The hatred in my heart began to fade. And with it, the love that had bound me for 10 long years. Truly, I had let go. Chapter 6. When I was preparing Elias's body for burial, I found a neatly folded envelope in the pocket of his overcoat. Inside were his will and a final letter. He had hired a lawyer, had it notarized, and left me everything, all his property, futures, and stocks. He was an orphan, no parents, raised by his grandmother. For all these years, it had always been just the two of us, clinging to each other for warmth in this cold world. The letter was 9 pages long. The handwriting at the beginning was still neat, but toward the end, it grew shaky and chaotic, each stroke trembling, as if draining the last of his strength. I only read the first page. Wife, please forgive my selfishness and cowardice. I can only apologize to you in this way, by writing. I'm dying. I don't want to die at all. We never got to see the northern lights together. Never fell asleep under the stars in the wilderness. Never had a child of our own. Never grew old together with silver hair, with gardenias around your wrist as we leaned on each other, shopping for the freshest lotus roots and ribs at the market. I don't want to die with lies between us, but I can't bear to see the look of disappointment, of anger, of regret in your eyes. I'm terrified of you saying you don't want me anymore. I wouldn't survive it. It turns out, it wasn't you who couldn't live without me, but me who couldn't live without you. Do you remember? At our wedding, I vowed that whether in wealth or poverty, in health or in sickness, we would stay together and grow old hand in hand. You've always kept your promise. It was me who failed you. When we were poor, you endured those bitter days with me. 3 years in that tiny, damp basement. When I finally made something of myself, I stopped caring for you. I could never forget those days you shared my hardship. We were like 2 rats in a sewer, huddling together for warmth, unwelcome and out of place in this vast city. Later, I got arrogant, thought that because I had a little money, I was someone. I was no longer the failed entrepreneur who needed a home light to warm him. I was a boss. The world outside was vast and exciting. I thought I deserved someone younger, better, fresher. And you, who had seen me at my worst, made me feel burdened, ashamed. I cheated. A tear fell on the paper. I snapped the letter shut as if fleeing from it. When I touched my cheek, my hand came away wet. I didn't bother reading the rest of his explanations and apologies. I could understand the weakness of men, but I would never forgive it. Forget it. That's enough. There was no need to read any further. With the lawyer's help, I easily won the lawsuit, reclaiming all the property Elias had once transferred to Victoria. Most of it was money transfers, over 1.8 million yuan, and a house in Hainan. At least she hadn't spent it all on luxury bags or clothes. Saved me the trouble later. Victoria liked second-hand things. I found them filthy, an eyesore, disgusting. A few weeks after the judgment, I unexpectedly received a message from Victoria. I want to talk to you. Talk. My ass. There was nothing left for us to talk about. 2 seconds later, another message arrived. I'm pregnant. The child is Elias's. Chapter 7. We met at a cafe. Victoria showed up in a mink coat and a designer bag, striking the pose of a proud empress. Smugly, she rested one hand on her waist and the other on her belly, perhaps to boost her confidence. She had dressed herself extravagantly, unlike her usual pretentious coquette style. Today, she wore heavy makeup, eyeliner stretched to her temples, bright red lipstick like a gaping wound. Her whole face screamed the arrogance of a petty woman drunk on her own victory. You? What are you even? She sneered. Didn't you want to fight me? Come on. Then, fight. A barren hen who can't lay eggs. Married for 3 years and couldn't even get pregnant. I fooled around for a few months and I'm already expecting. You know why? She covered her mouth and laughed wildly. This is fate. My precious son has brought me a life of fortune and nobility. The baby's over 3 months now, secure and healthy. Don't even think of pulling any dirty tricks to hurt me or my child. You'll never beat me. You'll always be under my feet, rotting away in humiliation. A throbbing pain pulsed behind my temples. Honestly, I wanted to suggest she watch something other than Empresses in the Palace and teenage melodramas, maybe a few episodes of Legal Knowledge Weekly. Such a grown woman, yet neither moral nor educated. An empty-headed fool convinced that everyone in the world was plotting against her. The Qing dynasty's long gone. I said coldly, this is a country governed by law now. It's not about what you say, it's about evidence. You claim the child is Elias's? Where's the proof? What are you going to do? Throw a tantrum in court too? Her smile froze. Her face turned pale, tinged with greenish fury. After a while, she forced a pitiful smile and softened her tone. Sister, I was wrong, but the child is innocent. He's Elias's flesh and blood, your own family. How can you let a baby be born without a home? From now on, my child will be your child too. I'll even have him call you godmother. We can raise him together. I looked at her like she was an idiot. Save it. You make me sick. You chose to be a single mother, whatever suffering or poverty comes. You deserve it. Victoria immediately changed tactics. She slapped herself across the face, tears streaming down instantly. I'm shameless. I admit it. It's my fault. But the child is innocent. The baby's father is dead, and if his spirit could see us from heaven, he'd want his own flesh and blood to live in peace and comfort. Her whole performance shifted from arrogance to a full-blown melodrama. What a seamless transition. She'd switched straight into the tragic soap opera heroine. Then go cry to the baby's father. I said flatly. No matter how much she tried to play the victim, I stuck to one line. None of my business, unless you bring me a paternity test signed by Elias himself. I added. I won't acknowledge it, and neither will the court. We parted on bad terms. The next day, the pregnant woman actually showed up at my door with her entire family. They banged on the door like maniacs. I turned on a horror movie with a haunted house theme, put on my noise-canceling headphones, and enjoyed a perfectly peaceful, lazy morning. By noon, hunger gnawed at me. I ordered takeout and looked for a new show to watch while I ate. When the delivery guy arrived at the gate, I discovered they were still there. My biological father gripped the doorframe tightly, blocking me from closing the door. No matter what, Victoria is still your sister. Can you really watch her die? She's only 19. The auntie beside him started crying, and in between sobs, she actually tried to kneel and grab my legs. Please, she begged. She's your sister, give her a chance to live. She's just a poor mother with a child to feed. Saying that, she pulled Victoria down to kneel beside her. I sneered. When she was hooking up with Elias, did she ever remember that I was her sister? Morality meant nothing to her, worse than an animal. And now she's crying and calling me sister? Even if you called me grandmother, it wouldn't change a thing. I didn't go after you. Yet you have the nerve to show up here, dancing in front of me. Leave right now, or I'll call the police. My words were harsh, but when I saw my father's hand caught painfully in the door crack, I didn't push it harder. They exchanged a glance, then suddenly lunged forward to force the door open. For hands against 2 fists, I quickly lost. The door burst open. I was shoved against the wall, falling to the floor, clutching my knees, unable to get up for a long while. The three of them swarmed into my house like locusts, like bandits raiding a village, rummaging through everything they could find. All this effort, just to collect samples for a paternity test. They clutched Elias's urn like it was a sacred relic, ripped off my bed sheets and pillowcases, grabbed toothbrushes and toothpaste, and crawled on the floor, picking up stray hairs from the corners like treasure hunters. They were just about to leave with their loot when they ran straight into the arms of the police officers waiting outside. "Stop right there, you three, disturbing the peace?" one of the officers barked. I added helpfully, "Actually, it's upgraded to burglary now. Caught red-handed." I said sweetly, "Comrade officers, your efficiency is amazing, true sons of the people. I'll make sure to send you a silk banner of appreciation tomorrow." I glanced up at the black and white photo hanging on the balcony. It irritated me. I'd replace it tomorrow. The urn, of course, was empty. "Sorry about that," I said calmly. "My husband was a free spirit. He loved to wander. Before he died, he asked me to scatter his ashes across the lakes and seas. Now he's probably resting peacefully under the water, enjoying eternal freedom. But the urn itself is high-end, rosewood exterior, pure gold interior, carved dragons and phoenixes, handcrafted, priced at 88,000 yuan, comes with an official invoice. As for those toothbrushes and sheets, let's not quibble. The total theft values around 30 to 100,000 yuan. That qualifies as major theft. Officers, please take them away. It's cold outside. Let them spend a warm new year behind bars, with food and shelter provided." Only then did Victoria seem to realize what was happening. She glared at me venomously. You set this up. "Officer, this is a trap," she shrieked. My father tried to smooth things over, grinning nervously. No, she's just a kid talking nonsense. We're all family, no need to call it theft. I'm her father. She's just joking." He bent and fawned, lighting cigarettes for the officers, tapping his temple with a finger. "She just lost her husband. Poor girl. She's mentally unstable right now. Don't believe a word she says." I looked at him calmly. Then, refusing to back down, I snapped coldly. "Feeding off your own daughter's misfortune, do you even count as human?" "Yes. I've lost my husband," I continued, my voice sharp as glass. "But that doesn't mean I'm someone you can trample on. You two had an affair, drove my mother to her death, emptied the family fortune to please that cheap woman, and now it's still not enough. Do you want to push me to death too?" The female officer gently patted my shoulder to comfort me. I opened the home surveillance footage. It clearly showed how the three of them had barged into my house without shame, swaggering around as if they owned the place. It showed me being shoved against the doorway. Too weak to stand, helpless and pitiful, they ransacked the place like thieves, searching every corner, grabbing whatever they could find, debating aloud what to take and what to leave. That frail, delicate aunt of mine even took the chance to sneak to my jewelry box, lifted her blouse, and stuffed my necklace and bracelet into her bra. The scene was downright disgusting. The three of them were promptly rewarded with silver handcuffs. As they were being taken away, Victoria lunged toward me again, trying to scratch my face. I looked at her lazily, and stabbed her once more with words colder than steel. "When you get inside, sleep early, wake up early, reform yourself, watch the evening news, learn to use the sewing machine. Take this as your chance to learn a trade." Later, Victoria was detained. It wasn't until many years later that I saw her again. I was leaving the mall, slightly tipsy, when I opened my car door and noticed a crowd gathered on the street. From a distance, I heard shouting. Someone said a child had stolen bread from a bakery. The manager caught him, and in the struggle, the kid bit his hand. It took quite an effort to restrain him. The boy's hands were filthy, touching everything. The entire tray of cream puffs had to be paid for by the parent. They were arguing. The 7 or 8-year-old boy was kicking and hitting his mother, screaming and tearing at her clothes, demanding she pay and let him go. The woman looked to be in her 30s. She wore a cheap, half-worn black dress, its rough lace frayed and wrinkled, just like her dry, tired, wrinkled face. There was something familiar about her face, though at first, I couldn't place where I'd seen it. Then, after a closer look, I realized it was her, Victoria. People around were whispering and pointing, but Victoria just stood there, rooted in place, tears streaming down her cheeks, letting the crowd scold her son for being rude, heartless, ungrateful. So young and already this disobedient, someone needs to teach him discipline. A kid who hits his own mother, definitely antisocial. She stood with the crowd, joining their chorus, finding comfort by condemning her own child, as if turning him into the enemy could make her feel like one of them. She was still relatively tidy, but the boy, he looked like he'd rolled through mud. His clothes were so filthy the original color was gone. His sleeves and pant legs too short. His body as thin as a matchstick. I sighed, without saying anything. I handed my driver 200 yuan and told him to pay the bakery on their behalf. The manager, eager to end the argument and return to business, accepted the money and dropped the matter. But Victoria wouldn't let it go. She insisted on taking the entire tray of cream puffs she'd paid for. Now even the onlookers couldn't stand it anymore. Like mother, like son, the once weak and pitiful mother turned feral the moment she saw me. When she realized I was the one who paid, her madness flared, like dynamite lit from both ends. Her eyes went bloodshot as she lunged at me, screaming, "Who asked for your pity? You came to laugh at me, didn't you? You bitch! It's all your fault! You did this to me!" Before she could reach me, my driver pushed her back. Victoria fell hard onto the ground, sitting there, powerless, consumed by rage. "I curse you!" she spat, her voice breaking. "I curse you to never be loved by any man for the rest of your life." I looked at her calmly and smiled. Why would I want something so filthy? I have money, time, and peace of mind. My life is already good. I've never needed to borrow anyone else's light. I told the driver to start the car. Through the window, Victoria's figure grew smaller and smaller, until she disappeared completely. All that remained before my eyes were the high-rises, the shop fronts along the street, the passing crowds. The orange-red sunset sank between the gaps of the buildings. Night spread, the sky darkened, and the neon lights began to flicker to life one by one, illuminating the city as bright as day. I was no longer afraid of the dark. Tomorrow, the sun would rise again, and it would be a brand new day.